All right, everyone. My name is Patrick Mancuso, and I am on the eServices team for the Alvin/MyDMV project that will be replacing InVTrip on December 11th. Today, we're going to be showing a few things that you can do on MyDMV, such as how to pre-register for a logon prior to our rollout date, how to manage access to online accounts, and also how to submit and pay for title work through MyDMV. In case you haven't heard, InVTrip will be going down on December 7th at 7 p.m. So any work should be done in InVTrip prior to that deadline because we need that time to convert all the information in InVTrip over to MyDMV so that we can start fresh December 11th with the new MyDMV application. There have been some notifications sent out on how you can pre-register so that you have a logon for your designated agent account on day one, that is December 11th. But we will also be showing how to do this during the demo today. A quick disclaimer before we get started. All the data that we are using today is fictitious. There may be some slight differences between what is seen today and what we have going live on December 11th based on any changes that we may need to do. And we will ask that everyone remain on mute for the duration of this presentation. But if you have questions, please put them into chat and we will stop periodically throughout the demo to answer them. This demo is also being recorded and it will be sent out to everyone so that if you are not able to attend one of the scheduled meetings, you can watch the demo and submit any questions to alvin@revenue.alabama.gov. So the first thing we're going to be showing today is how to pre-register for your MyDMV account. This will be done through a link that we will post in the chat, or you could type in mydmv.revenue.alabama.gov/TAP/LGNREG into your browser, but clicking the link might be a little bit easier. And that will take you to this home page that has a link for logon registration. This is used to grant access to logons prior to our rollout on December 11th. However, this portal as well as MyDMV will be going down on December 7th at 7 p.m. So please be sure to submit all of these requests prior to that date and be prepared to switch over to InVTrip on December 11th. So we will start by clicking on this logon registration link, which will take us to an About section, which describes what this request is doing. And it is giving access to accounts to MyDMV for designated agents, in-state, out-of-state dismantlers, as well as title service providers. Can I go ahead and have if we have a dismantler or a title service provider in the chat, please either raise your hand or type something into chat because this process varies ever so slightly if you are one of those entities. Regardless of that account type, you will still need to provide a contact email, a contact phone number, and the exact DA number or license number that is used on your ALTS account or InVTrip if you are a dismantler. If you are a designated agent, you can find your exact DA number by using this license search link, which will take you to the InV license search. You can type in your business name, and we are expecting this number right here to be used. If the incorrect DA number is used, your account will not be auto-approved and potentially could not be approved at all if we cannot find the correct account. In addition to that, you will also want to use the login information used for your ALTS account. That would be the email and username. So we will go next and we will select our account information. So for designated agents, they will select designated agent and they will paste in their designated agent number that corresponds to the license number in this InVTrip search. From there, they will also want to put in an email, and this email must match up with the email that is used for your login for your Alts account. It's very important that these match up because that is how we determine when accounts get auto-approved. And if your account is not auto-approved, it will go into a manual queue and could be delayed until after rollout. Once you have your email, there is an option to use the same email as your username, or you can select no and put in whatever username you would like. We would prefer that this match up with the username that matches your alt account. Failure to do so would result in it going into a manual approval queue and could lead to some delays. And next, we will ask for some contact information for the person logging in. As well as a phone type, the country, and the phone number so that we can contact the user in the case where we need to manually approve this logon. If you are a title service provider, this request looks slightly different because we will ask for additional designated agent account numbers. So title service providers will need to provide their designated agent number here, as well as all designated agent numbers for accounts that they have access to do title work on. That way, on day one of rollout, they will be able to perform title work as normal. However, since this is production, we will just move on to the next section. And we'll see that this is a confirmation where you need to provide a signature confirming everything in the request is correct, as well as a confirmation, or excuse me, a CAPTCHA. Again, since this is a live site and production data, we will not be submitting this test user. However, we do encourage people who have not already completed this request to please complete this prior to us going live so that they can have access to the system on December 11th. And with that, we will go ahead and take a brief pause for any questions. And it looks like a couple of people cannot hear, but others can. So Matt has posted some instructions for how to make sure that the speaker is configured correctly. But we don't seem to have any questions on this section, so we'll go ahead and move on to the next part of the demo, where we will move into the actual application. So now that we have shown everyone how to pre-register for their account, we'll show them what it looks like when they are actually logging in, as well as how to manage access to users and create new logons for new users. To log into your account, you can use the partner logon link in the top right. There is also a link here in the Alabama Partners panel that will both take you to the same place, where you can put in your username and password. Should you forget the username or password after your account has been created, you can recover that without the need to contact MVD using the forgot username or password link down here. There is also a link that we will be posting out that you can bookmark, and it will take you directly to this login screen without the need to go to the home page. So now I will paste in the logon for our demo user. And that will take us to a security code verification. All accounts on MyDMV require two-factor authentication. And we offer 3 methods for that two-factor authentication. There's a mobile app, such as Google Authenticator. You can also have a code texted to you using a phone number, or it could be emailed to you if you provide an email. This is done whenever you are creating your logon. You also have a Trust This Device box that will not require you to use this two-factor authentication whenever you log in under the same IP address again. So if you are using a work computer on site, you will only need to do this two-factor once. You can trust this device and not need to provide a code every single time. So we will populate this code and confirm, and that will take us to the summary section. If you are a title service provider or another service provider, there will be another screen before this where you will select which customer to do work with. A customer could be thought of as another company in which you do title applications for. So if you manage 3 or 4 different dealerships' title applications, those potentially would be split up into different customers that you have access to do work under. Once you select that customer, it will take you to the summary screen that we see here, where we have the designated agent panel, as well as what we call the licensing account actions. So for master dealers, who we are showing today, they have more privileges than other designated agents, such as pawn shops, law firms, or financial institutions, which will have different panel setups here. Before we go into that, we will move over to the Business Management tab. Here, we will have a link to search for submissions. So anything submitted through your MyDMV account can be searched for here. This could be title applications or renewals or any sort of thing that would have a confirmation number associated with it. We have the Messages tab, which we will go into a bit later. There's also the Letters tab, where you can view any correspondence. This would be letters that are potentially also mailed to your account as well. A good example would be compliance letters. So if your license was out of compliance, that letter would be mailed to you as well as show up in this Letters tab, so you can view it online. And there's also the Access Management tab, where you can manage user access, such as adding a new logon or changing the access of existing logons. This Access Management tab is only available to admin users. An admin user, there are 2 types of logons that we have. It's an admin user as well as a basic user. Admin users have ability to manage logons, add new logons, as well as update and save bank account information, whereas basic users cannot do any of those actions that I previously mentioned. Before we go in and add a logon, we're first going to show the messages capabilities. So if you have any questions regarding any of your title applications or your license or something in general, such as adding a logon, you can message the agency directly and potentially receive an answer quicker than a phone call, depending on how backed up the phone calls are. There will be MVD employees that are monitoring this queue and will be responding in a timely fashion. Here we'll see that we have some messages already in our inbox. These are just pertaining to license applications and are sent out automatically. We also have a link to send a message up here, which we will do now. And this will let us send message directly to MVD and have a user respond and provide help when needed. So first you will select the account that this message would apply to. We have the designated agent account here. This would be used anytime that the message pertains to a title app or any title app related process. Essentially, anything title related would go through the designated agent accounts, since those messages are sent to title experts at MVD, whereas messages concerning the master dealer account, or in other cases, your license account, so it could be your pawn shop license or financial institution license, that would be done here. And then finally, there's messages that don't concern specific accounts, such as questions about adding a logon. So we'll go ahead and use that. and we'll ask how do I add a new logon? And this message will be sent to MVD for someone to review. So once we can submit this message and send it immediately, we could save it as draft if we're not ready to send it yet. But we will submit it now, and it has been confirmed that it has been sent. So when we return back to the messages, our outbox has the question that we just asked the agency. And MVD will read this in the order that it's received and respond with appropriate instructions. But luckily, we won't need to wait for that response since we have me here to explain how to add a new logon, which is what we'll be doing next. So to do that, we'll use this back button here to return back to our home screen. And we will stay on the Business Management tab. And if we are an admin, we will have access to the Access Management tab to manage business access or add a new logon. We'll click the Add a New Logon so that we can create a logon for someone else to have access to our account. We'll put in a first and last name, as well as an email address. We'll confirm that email address. And then we'll ask for a username. You can keep it the same as the email, or you can put in a username if you would like to. However, if that username already exists, then you will be stopped and asked to put a new user in. But in our case, that email was available to be a username. So now we have to select which customers and accounts that user will have access to. Here we'll see our business, Montgomery Toyota. So we can use this grant access button here to give them access to that customer. And then it's going to ask the access type, which is either an account administrator or a basic account. Again, account administrators have additional privileges, so they can do everything basic account users can, but they will also be able to add new logons or manage the access of existing logons, as well as update and save bank account information. Since this is a newer employee, we will give them basic account access. And then we will select the accounts that they need access to. We'll see the designated agent account, which deals with all of the titles, and then our license account, which for dealers will deal with inventory and license management. So we will grant them access to both of those things. And then we will select the access level. There are two options: submit and pay and view only. Submit and pay is essentially full access. They can submit applications or requests, and they can also make payments for those requests. However, they cannot add new bank account information unless they are an admin. View only has access to view information, so they will not be able to submit anything. That means they will be able to search for titles, but they could not perform any actions. They could view information about the license, but could not update it in any way. So we will select submit and pay for this user. And then we will submit the request and get a confirmation number. This request will now show up in the submissions tab if you need to view it later. And an email will be sent out to the email provided for that user so that they can log in and set their password. That email that gets sent out will look something like this, from alvin-do-not-reply@revenue.alabama.gov, and it will tell you that a new logon has been created. This is also the same email that will be sent out to everyone who has elected to pre-register using the log-on registration that we showed earlier. So on December 11th, once all of the logons have been created and we have rolled out our full system, you will be getting an email with these instructions to help set up your account. So new users added both after we roll out and also users added through the logon registration will receive this email. They can take the username, Lisa Carr, in case they forgot it, and they can use this link to log in. This link will take them to somewhere to reset their password. So there is never a situation where a logon will need to share their password with another individual. It's always managed by that user. If they forget their password, they can use the forgot password link, which was shown earlier. But here we will set our password. And it must be 14 characters in length. It must contain both letters and numbers, at least one uppercase and lowercase letter, and a special character. And these passwords cannot be reused. So we have now updated our password. It's also important to note that there is no requirement to change this password after X number of days or months. You may keep the same password unless you lose it. However, it still must conform to the password requirements. So now that we have reset our password, we can use that partner logon link and log in to our logon. And this will take us to a few first time setup screen flows. So the first is our two-step verification, where we choose the method. Again, we can use an authentication app such as Google Authenticator to get security codes. You can also elect to receive security codes by text message or email by providing a phone number or an email. For today, we will use the authentication app, where we get the QR code, which we will scan using our app and set up our two-factor authentication method. If you do not have the QR code capabilities, you can still enter the key, which will have the same effect. Once that's saved, we'll be asked to verify that security code like we saw earlier. Since we are in a development environment, we are just going to populate it. That will not be available in production. You will need to use the actual two-step verification code provided by your device. Next, we'll provide some account recovery and contact information. So here we have our username, the account holder's name, as well as the email associated with that account. It will then ask for a security question that will be used when recovering the password for this account. And it will also ask for a contact phone number and a secondary phone number if you wish to provide one. So once we've entered that information, we can save this request, and then we'll be taken to the summary page. Here, we'll notice that there is designated agent training instead of just the designated agent panel. This is because by law, all designated agents must complete this training before they are able to do title work on behalf of Alabama. So all new logons will need to complete this training before they are able to do title work. This will not apply to people that use the logon registration. They will be grandfathered in because they will have had access to the alt account where they will have previously completed this training. However, all new logons must complete this training. It is also one-to-one with the logon. So if your logon has access to multiple different designated agent accounts, you will only need to complete this training once. To do that, you will use the complete training modules link here and begin the assessment. It is separated into 8 different subjects. All 8 must be passed before you are given access. You will select the answer and move on to the next question. Your progress is also saved, so you can back out at any time to go review training materials or continue at a later date. Since this is a testing environment, we're going to bypass this training. This will not be available in production and is used just for demonstration purposes. And once you've completed this training, we'll now see that we have access to the designated agent account, where we can perform title work and other title-related activities. We'll now take a brief pause to see if there's any questions in the chat. And it looks like there are no questions, so we'll go ahead and continue. So once your account is set up and you have access to your designated agent panel, you will see a Manage Title Applications link here, as well as a few other links, which we will go over later. But we will start with the Manage Title Applications link. This will take you to what we call a springboard, where we will list all of the applications that you have in various statuses and give you tools to search for those applications. This is primarily the screen where you will be performing title work under. So most of the time you are doing title work, it will be through this springboard. And there are links to transfer vehicle titles here, apply for new rebuilds, or send a message to the agency. This would be to apply for titles where you are doing a transfer or you don't have the Alabama title in front of you, or it's an out-of-state title. However, there are other title applications that you can perform from the actual details of the title. So for instance, once a title has been issued, you will still have the ability to correct those titles, manage liens on those titles, or replacements, which will be done on a different screen that we will show later. For now, we will start with a demo of a title transfer to show how that will look. To do so, we will use the Transfer Vehicle Titles link, which will take us to the vehicle title application. Here, I will paste in my VIN number, as well as my primary document, which in this case is an Alabama title. So I will need to provide the previous title number and issue date. If this does not match up with the information that we have on file, we will be stopped from completing this request until it matches up correctly. But if it does match up, you'll have to confirm that this is the existing material or existing vehicle. So we'll show some vehicle details as well as the current titled owner. And we'll say yes, that this vehicle is listed. And move on to the next section, where we will be collecting vehicle details. Since this is an Alabama title, these details are populated from the current title. If something has changed or is incorrect, you can override those vehicle details here. However, if it is an out-of-state title or we don't have a record of that title, we will be running it through a VIN decoder. And if there are multiple trims, you will have to select a trim using this button here. However, since there is only one trim for this vehicle, it is pre-selected for us. All of that information looks correct, so we will move on to the owner's section, where we'll be asked if there is a lease agreement, and if there is one, a purchase or buyout option. For our demo, we will say it is not being leased, and we will add the owner. The owner could be an individual, a business, estate, government agency, or trust. Based on that, we will collect different pieces of information. But for demonstration purposes, this will be a title transfer to another individual. And we will use the Alabama driver's license as the ID type. If they do not have an ID present, you can always use the no ID presented, and you aren't required to provide an ID type and information. But if you do use an Alabama driver's license, you can put in the identification number and use the owner lookup button to pull back the information on that ID. Here we'll see it belongs to a Mississippi. If there was a middle name that was missing or it came back with the wrong information, you can always change this as needed. Or enter your email address and phone number for contacting them. If there is another owner, you will add that additional owner, designate if it's an and or an or relationship, and provide other information there. But there is only one titled owner for this scenario, so we will move on to the next section, where we will collect operator information. It is not required that titles have an operator, so if there are no operators, you can simply continue next, but we will add one here. It is another individual with an Alabama ID, and we will provide the ID number here, and we'll see that ID is for a Kenya Dewitt with a middle name of Samuel. And there's an email and contact information that we can provide as well, or add an additional operator. There can only be a maximum of 2 owners and 2 operators for any title. But in our scenario, we only have 1 owner and 1 operator, so we can move to the next section, where we collect the location address of the vehicle. We'll put in the street and city and the state, and we'll use the verify address, which could complete the address, and we'll verify the address based on what's in the USPS database. If the address does not verify, you can override it and put in the address manually. This would be used in situations where there's new housing development or the address does not exist based on USPS, but it is a valid address. However, we would encourage that all addresses be verified when possible. Next, we'll ask if there is a different mailing address for the owner. So if the owner receives mail at a different address than the vehicle is located, we will collect that here. But in this case, they live at the same place that the vehicle is located, and they receive mail there as well. So we can move on to purchase information. Here, there's multiple types of acquisitions. For Alabama dealers, the primary one would likely be a dealer sale / lease. However, there's other options for issuing a title that would be used in situations, other situations beside a Alabama dealer sale. From there, we would specify the condition when applicable. In this case, it's a used vehicle since it was already a title. We'll put in the purchase date. We'll select today as the purchase date, but it could be in the past. We'll put in the sale price of the vehicle of $50,000 and then a trade-in of $10,000. Next, we'll collect dealer information, which will pre-populate based on the information on this dealer account. If your dealership has multiple locations, there will be an option to select a different location here. You can also change the address if needed, but we recommend that we keep the dealer information based on what is in the account. And if that needs to be updated, it can be done through the location management. Next, since this is a transfer, all prior liens must be released since it is a change of ownership. So this prior lien holder will need to be released before we can transfer this title. And it was released today. And since we are releasing liens, that means we will need to provide lien release documentation whenever we submit this title application. Next, we can add new liens to the account if need be using the Add Lien button. There is the option to look up known lien holders. This will take all Alabama lien holders and let you search by them. And it will ensure that the proper Lien holder name and address is provided. It will also honor their electronic lien and title preferences, so they will be able to receive those titles electronically if they wish to do so. Or we can manually enter a lien holder name and mailing address for cases where they don't exist in the system or they live out of state. There can be up to 2 lien holders at a time, so you can add an additional lien if need be. It would be the same process where you could look up a lien holder or enter in the information manually. But for demonstration purposes, we will not be adding a lien to this title. It's paid for in full. So we can move on to the next section where we collect the odometer. There's options for actual. This would be the actual odometer code. There's not actual, unreadable digital, and exceeds limits that would be used in other situations where the actual code cannot be retrieved. It takes miles and kilometers, and it does require a reading if it is a used vehicle. So we will put in 15,000 miles on this vehicle. If there are any existing brands, they would show here. And if you wish to add any brands, because the vehicle was branded in some way, that would also be done here as well. Using the Add Brand button, we would select the brand and the jurisdiction that the brand came from. But this is a clean title with no brands, so there's no need to add one. And we'll move on to the Invitus section. This is a change from the old system, so we are running Invitus real time as you are completing the title application. It starts in the background, so by the time you reach this section, there should be a result. In this case, Invitus did verify and we can continue. However, if there are Invitus discrepancies, they would show up here and they would need to be either overwritten or resolved outside of the system when possible. Any title that has an Invitus discrepancy, whether it was overridden or not, will not be auto-approved and will also be manually reviewed by MVD. But there is the expectation that due diligence is done by the designated agent whenever these discrepancies occur. Next, we'll ask for a special mailing address. This is available whenever there is not a primary lien holder, and it lets the title be mailed to a one-time special mailing address, such as a PO box or any address necessary. But since this person resides in the same place the vehicle is located, that address we provided earlier is fine to receive the title. Next, we will show the document requirements. So in addition to the title application, we must also upload the current Alabama title, the bill of sale, and lien release documents for the prior lien holder. And if there were additional documents that we wish to upload with this application, we would designate that here. But for demonstration purposes, we will not be adding an additional document. Here we'll see the title application fee. For vehicles, it is $15. And then we'll show a summary of the whole title application. We will quickly review and make sure all the information is correct, the vehicle details and the assignments, lien holders and brands would show here as well if there are any. Should information need to be changed, you can return back to previous sections using the previous button here or by navigating it on the sidebar up here to return to another section. But we will stay on the summary section since everything looks to be correct. If we wanted to save this draft and complete it at a later date, we can do so using this button here. But we will go ahead and submit this title application and confirm with a signature. Once we submit, we will be given a confirmation number, but we will still need to upload title documentation to support this new application. And next, we will show how to print out that title application and upload the required documents. For doing so, we will quickly check to see if there's any questions in the chat, which there does not seem to. Oh, we do have a few. So to confirm, you said that adding an operator name is not required. What would be a scenario that require an operator to be added? So that is more of a business policy. However, a scenario that I'm familiar with would be a situation where the vehicle is titled under the parent's name, but another operator could be a child who is designated to drive that vehicle. In that case, you would title it and add the parents as the owner, and then add the kid as an operator of that vehicle. The question also exists. Acquisition date is the date of sale or the date the vehicle was acquired by the dealership.
Yeah, it would be whoever the title is being issued to, the date that they acquired it. So if the dealership is selling that title to an individual, it would be the sale date because that individual acquired that vehicle on that date. If the dealership was titling it in their name, then it would be the date that the dealership acquired it.
And finally, previous liens and release date. Is this a required field to be completed for each registration? If we have a clear title, would the assumption be there was no previous liens? Yes. So in our example scenario, that Alabama title had a current lien holder on it. And before that title is eligible to be transferred to a new owner, all financial interest on that prior title must be resolved. So we require that the previous lien be released before continuing. There is also a separate request you can complete to manage the liens on an existing title in situations where liens are added, transferred, or removed without the need to transfer the title's ownership. However, if there are no liens on that title, you will not see any liens show up on that section at all, and you would just have the option to add new liens if applicable. And finally, Kathy asked, can you submit more than one title application at a time? I'm not totally sure what you mean by this. I guess your dealership can submit multiple applications at the same time if you have multiple users logged in and each of them are working title applications independently. However, you would not be able to have two tabs open and both of those tabs would each be a different title application. Hopefully that answers your question. If not, we can circle back to it on our next break for questions. So we'll return back to the demonstration where we're going to show how we can print out the title application and upload the required documents. So once we've submitted this title, we'll notice that our Action Center now has two title applications that need action. This tab here will display all applications where MVD is expecting the designated agent to do work on these titles. So this top one is in rework required. This is typically done on title applications that were submitted in error. So there was an issue with information on the title or some of the submitted documents that needs to be resolved. And there's also an application that's waiting on documents. This was the transfer that we just submitted. And we'll see that there are work dates for both of these applications. These work dates are important. If these applications are not reworked or have documents submitted by this work date, access to submit new title applications will not be allowed until those old title applications are resolved. So if there are things in your action center, it's very important that they are worked in a timely fashion. Otherwise, your designated agent account will be locked down and you won't be able to submit new applications before the previous ones are resolved. Before we return to the rework scenario, we're going to finish up that vehicle title transfer that we just submitted today by going to this details link. That details button will exist on all title applications as well as existing titles for vehicles, and it will show title information. So application number, document information, details, assignments, owners, any liens or brands that may exist can all be seen here. There is also a tab for documents. So this is the list of documents that MVD is expected to be uploaded in addition to this title application before it can be processed. So we will need the title application, the Alabama title, lien release documentation, and a bill of sale. And we'll see that there is a letters tab where we can print out this vehicle title application. This will take us to a PDF of the application, and depending on your browser, you will have options to download or print this. At this point, it is not saved to your computer, so you will need to download it or print it out in order for that to happen, but that would be dependent on the internet browser that you use. Here, we'll see that the owner and the designated agent must sign this title application. So in the real world, they would need to print this out, sign the application, and then they would return back to the title details where they can use the upload documents. Before we upload documents, we'll give a brief description about the actions that can be done to this title application. So this is in the pending review, but it has documents required. So MVD has not reviewed this title application at all yet. At this point, all title applications in the documents required stage are eligible to be voided. Voided means that the application is essentially undone. Any changes will be reversed out of the system. And since MVD has not reviewed this application at all or put any work into it, the $15 application fee or whatever the titling fee for that application is will not be charged to your account. However, this void option will not be available as soon as it is submitted to MVD. You will only have the option to withdraw the application, which will undo the application. A title will not be submitted, but you are still expected to pay that application fee when they are withdrawn. There is still the option to put the applications on hold. This can be once, and it will extend the document due date. So if you do not have all of the documents required, after 30 days, you can put the application on hold, which will give you an additional 30 days. This can only be done once per application. Finally, there's the rework option that can be used in situations where a typo is noticed or there's something that changed about the title itself, or perhaps something was wrong with the title application. You would be able to rework the application. Once it's submitted, a new title application can be printed and then uploaded. So now that we have our list of documents and the vehicle title application signed, we can use the upload documents request and upload our title documentation. To do that, we'll click on that blue link there and choose the file with which those documents exist. For demonstration purposes, we have a title documentation PDF that would contain the bill of sale, the title, the lien release, and the signed application. Once it is uploaded, you can also upload additional attachments if they are separate files in your computer. Or if you upload the wrong one, you can simply remove it. It is important to note that if your current process for documents is done in a batch format, so all at once for all the title applications. That will not need to change. We still have the appropriate interfaces set up to receive those uploads. But in this situation, we will be showing how to upload documents ad hoc for these applications. Once we have all the required documents uploaded, we will then be asked if we will finalize this application. This will submit it to the Alabama Motor Vehicle Division for review. Once it is submitted, you are expected to pay that title application fee. You will no longer be able to void the application, which would also void the debt that was charged for it. Instead, you can only withdraw it, but you would still be expected to pay the fee. So it's important that these applications are not finalized until they are in writing and unlikely to be undone, because you will still be paying that fee. So we'll say yes, we have uploaded all the required documents. If we say no, it will stay in the required document stage to be used in situations where you don't have all of the documents immediately, but you do have some of them that you would like to upload immediately. But for this demo, we will say yes and submit this title application to MVD for review or to be auto-approved if your account is set for auto-approval. We'll do another brief intermission for any questions that may exist.
So I'd like to follow up on the one about doing more than one title application at a time. And there was a follow-up to that saying that right now you send a batch to transfer titles. As far as I know, this is the first that I'm hearing about that. If you could provide a little bit more information, is that something that is entered directly into Alts to do that in a kind of multi-fashion, or is that a file that gets sent to someone, or are you using some kind of DMS vendor? I just want to make sure that we are aware of that if that is something that is missing, but that is the first that we have heard of a batch transfer process other than the document upload.
Well, other than that, we'll await the reply there and continue on with the demo, since there does not seem to be any new questions in the chat at this moment. And at this point, we'll say OK to that confirmation. And we'll now see that this title application is in progress, so it no longer says documents required. We will also notice that the void option, as well as on hold option, is no longer there. You can only withdraw this application. Again, withdrawing applications will not refund title application fees. That fee is still expected to be paid. We will see there's also an images tab here. This will be a list of all of the documents that were uploaded for that title application, and is visible as long as you are the designated agent that submitted that title application. We'll see that the title application can still be printed and the title information is still visible. So anytime this application is searched for, all this information is available. Next, we'll return back and we'll see that we only have one title application that needs action. Before, there were two applications. One was waiting on documents, but since we submitted those documents, it is no longer in the action center, which means MVD is not expecting any more work to be done on your part for that application. However, there is one sent back for rework. So we will go over potential scenarios in which applications need to be reworked now. To do that, we'll click into the details of this application, and we'll see it has rework required, and it's still pending review. There is the option to rework the application, upload new documents, or withdraw the application altogether. Remember, withdrawing applications does not refund the title application fee. So here we have the title information for that application. And we also have a rework reasons tab, which shows the reasons that NVD kicked this title application back to be reworked. In this situation, the owner names are not acceptable as submitted, and the examiner comments is saying that this is not a recognized government agency for the owner. So if we go back to the title information, we'll see that the primary owner was Department of Transportation, which was not a recognized government agency for this title. So we will need to correct that on the title. To update information on title applications, you will use this rework link here. There could be rework reasons that are simply saying that a couple of documents are missing. In that case, you would only upload those additional documents and you would not need to rework the application itself. But since we are changing the owner's name, we will need to rework this application. Clicking that will take us into a similar looking request. However, all of the information from the prior application will be pre-populated. So we will just be verifying all the information is correct as we click through these pages. So we'll see, yes, an existing vehicle is found. We'll confirm the vehicle details. And then the owners was the reason that this application was sent back for rework. And we realized that this is actually going to the Alabama State Motor Pool, since that's the business name that was provided on the documents that were uploaded with this application. We could also enter contact information for that business if need be. But for the demo, we have just corrected the business name, and then we will move on. There are no operators, so we can simply go next through that section. The location address is still correct. There is no mailing address for that application. Purchase information has not changed. Neither has the dealer information. And since there are no existing liens or new liens that need to be added, we can still continue forward. And since this application type is exempt from odometers, there is no need to provide any odometers. There are no brands that need to be added. We will still be running Invitus for all title applications, even if they are a rework or a correction or a new title application. It will run each time. If there's a special mailing address, we can add it there. And finally, we have the title documentation that was pulled from the prior one. Since we have already uploaded the government form and bill of sale, we will not need to upload those documents again unless one of the rework reasons is related to the documents that were uploaded. And we have no additional documents to include with this application. This is a rework of a title application, so we do not charge fees for updating it. It is only new title applications that will charge fees. And finally, we have the summary of the title application. We can see that the owner's name has been updated and everything else looks correct. So we will confirm the submission and submit it. At this point, we have a confirmation number, so it can be seen on the submissions tab that we showed earlier. And it has now been, or that application has been updated, and we can print out that title application and complete that process. I will quickly return to read any questions that we have before I go and upload additional documents for this rework. So right now we submit our title transfers once a week with only one total charge for titles. Will we be submitting titles individually and be charged individually?
Yeah,
So,
I follow. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, so there is some changes to how the financial aspect of title applications will work. You will only be expected to pay for title applications in bulk, meaning every night we will be grouping together all of the title applications submitted that day into one debt, and then you will pay off all of that debt at once for each day. Any debt that is older than 10 days must be paid off. Otherwise, if you do not pay it off after 10 days, then your account will be locked out until that debt is paid off. In terms of submitting these applications in bulk once a week, I'll let Christina follow up on that one.
Yeah, so I guess I'm still a little bit confused about what submit specifically means in this situation. I know there's a little bit of different terminology for MV-Trip and for my DMV. So when you say submit, I just want to verify that there is no process for uploading all title information just at one time with the click of a button, because the batch upload process for documents is still once a week. You could submit all payments for titles done that week at once a week, but there's just no option right now to have multiple titles added into the system in a kind of bulk fashion. So if that is the case, please let us know. But if you want to do your batch upload of documents once a week and do your batch payment, or sorry, bulk payment once a week, that is still feasible.
And also, if you do have a DMS vendor, we are set up with the current DMS vendors, so your process will not change if you are using a DMS vendor. So it could potentially be the DMS vendor that is collecting all of these applications at once. But yes, as it stands now, there is no way to click one button and submit all the title applications done that week all at once. Each one will be keyed in manually and submitted. You will be able to pay for them in bulk at the end of the week or whatever time of the day, but there is no functionality to click a button and submit 10 title applications at once. We have another question that says, can each designated agent pay for their own title applications, or does an admin pay for those? If they can, how would we set that up? So the way that works is we will show it a little bit later on in the demo, but I'll give a brief description now. If you are an admin user, you have the option to set up bank account information for that entire account. So if you're a dealership, all the users that have access to that account will have access to that bank account when paying off title applications. However, if an admin has not set up bank account information, then basic users will not be able to pay for title applications using bank account information. They must enter in credit card information, which may charge credit card processing fees. As for the paying for the title applications, they would be paid off in bulk going forward. So you would not select the individual applications to pay for. Instead, you would select the day to pay off, and that day would contain all of the title applications done on that day in one bulk debt that you will pay off in one payment. We have one more question. Is there a way to receive a recording of this meeting to review or allow team members to review who are not able to join these calls? Yes, this meeting is being recorded and we will send that out going forward. So all information covered in this meeting will be recorded so you can play it back to any employees that are not able to join these calls. However, we are also doing these demos twice a day, every day for the next 2 weeks, not including Friday. So the 27th through the 30th, the 4th through the 7th. And the time slots for that will be 10:30 to 12 or 1:30 to 3. So those are the time slots for this demo. However, the information in these demos is the same, so there is no need to attend multiple unless you have joined late and missed something that happened earlier on in the demo and would like to catch up by attending the first half of the next one. So we will now return back to the demo. We have now just submitted our reworked title application, but we will notice that this title application will still be in the rework required stage. That is because documents have not been uploaded. In all scenarios where a title application needs to be reworked, we are expecting an upload of some sort. If you are missing uploads, that could be a rework reason. You must upload those documents, or if something about the title application changes, you would first rework the application, and you still must sign and upload the new title application. So if we go to our title information, we'll notice that the owners has been updated to the Alabama State Motor Pool, so the correct owner. And on the letters tab, we have this vehicle title application, which we must then print, and it must be signed by the Alabama State Motor Pool and the designated agent that submitted it. Once that is printed and signed, you will go to the upload documents, just like we did for the transfer. Upload the title application, as well as any other documents that may have been missing. But in this case, we only have the title application that needs to be uploaded. We'll then ask if this is finalized. So if there are more documents we are waiting on, we would say no to this. However, all of our ducks are in a row and we can submit this title application. That then takes us to the familiar confirmation screen. Again, this confirmation number can be used to search for title applications or submissions. It's also helpful whenever troubleshooting. So if you have to contact NVD because you aren't sure what happened with a title application, a confirmation number is a very valuable piece of information. They also may ask you for something called a support ID, which can always be found at this top header bar using this question mark and the view support ID. What this allows NVD to do is see the current browser screen that you are on as you see it. So everything you click on, they will be able to see only on the MyDMV application. It does not let them see all of the applications you have opened on your desktop. It is just a copy of what is showing on this browser tab. So now that we have reworked this title application, we'll see that it's in the in progress status. So it is no longer in rework and it is pending review. The only action we can do is to withdraw this application should we need to. Again, withdrawing applications does not refund the application fee. And if we go back to our title applications, we'll see that there is nothing in the Action Center. So that means there is nothing NVD is expecting this designated agent to do for any of their current title applications. Next, we will go over the process for requesting a replacement. To do this, there's multiple ways to find an existing title in the system. There is the Submissions tab, which would be all of the applications that this designated agent has submitted themselves through a certain date range. There is also a Search tab where you can search for a specific application or title using application number, title number, or vehicle ID. In this case, I will paste in the vehicle ID and click search. And we'll see that 2 applications/titles are returned. One of them is the current title and one of them is a history title. If we click into the non-current title, we can see the details of this title application. We'll see that it was issued on December 6th, but also canceled that same day, and the status is transferred. So it was transferred again after being issued. We'll notice that we cannot take any actions on this title application. We can only send a message to the agency about it. But we can view the title information that existed for that specific title number. However, if we go back and use the current title, we will see that we have more actions that we can perform on this title. So we'll see that it was issued on December 6th. This was the transfer that canceled that other title. There is title information about it on here, as well as documents and images, since this was the designated agent that submitted the application. We'll notice that we can request a replacement for this title. We can issue a title correction, or we can manage the liens on this title. All of these are considered new title applications and will charge a fee, with the exception of liens that are released automatically. But for this demo, we will just be requesting a replacement title. This will take us to a title replacement request where the VIN is pre-populated and it will ask for a replacement reason. Here we will say lost or never received or mutilated. And we can put an additional comment. Saying that there was a spill on the current title. Next, it will ask if we want to add a special mailing address. Again, this is just a one-time address that only the title will be mailed to. The customer does not need that. They are still at the same location they were at previously whenever they titled the vehicle. And now it will say the documentation required. So we'll see that the Alabama title is required for this title replacement. That is because the title was mutilated. If the title is lost or never received, we would not require that to be uploaded because you would not be in possession of that title, presumably. If there are other documents that you would like to include with this application, you can list them here, such as a death certificate, any lien releases, or potentially a driver's license. But we will say that we are just going to upload the title Alabama title. Next, we will see the title application fee, and then a summary of the VIN and the replacement reason. And finally, another confirmation. And we can submit that request, where it will take us to the familiar confirmation screen, which we can use to look that up later if need be. We'll do another brief intermission to check for any questions in the chat. And it seems like there is nothing new since the last time we checked. We will continue on with how to pay for title applications. So from there, we'll see that this title is still issued since this is the previous title that we have just requested a replacement for. But when we go back to our title applications, we'll notice our Action Center has a title application in the waiting for documents. This is the replacement title that we just submitted. And we'll see that the documents for that title are due on January the 10th. We click into the details. That is where we can put it on hold. Void that title. Again, void means that you will not have to pay that title application fee since MVD has not reviewed that title or put any work into it. You can upload additional documents, which in this case, we would need to be uploading the signed vehicle title application, as well as the Alabama title, or we could rework it if need be. But since we've uploaded documents for 2 title applications already, that process has been shown twice and we won't go over it again. And we'll instead move on to payments for title applications. So when we return back to the screen, we will take payment not in this title springboard, but we will return either using this home button or this back button. This back button you'll see pretty often. It will take you back to the prior screen that you were on. So whenever I start a transfer, this takes me back to the title applications, whereas this home button will always take me back to the home screen, where I will see a summary of all of the actions available to my account. So now that we've submitted some title applications, we can see how we are expected to pay them off. This is a change from how things worked with InvTrip/alts. To do so, we will go to the Submit Payment request, where we will see a list of balances. We'll notice that these balances are not necessarily specific to individual title applications. That is because every night, all applications submitted that day are grouped together into that date, into one large balance that you pay off as a group. So I would pay off all of the debts from December 6th, 7th, and 8th, which would encompass all of my title applications from those 3 days. It's also important to note that fees will run a day behind, so you will not see the new debts for the title applications that we submitted today. Those will be available to be paid off tomorrow. This is to allow the system time to gather all of the applications done on that day and group them together so they can all be paid off at once. So once we have selected all of our debts, we will notice that there is a due date for each of these, similar to how each title application had to be paid off within 10 days in the old system. That rule is still in place. However, it applies to the debt groups as a whole. So if you have not paid off a day's debt from 10 days ago, you will be locked out of your account. We have displayed a due date for all of those title application debts here to help make that easier. So after December 16th, if we were to not pay for this day's debt, we would be locked out of our account until we can submit payment. And when I say locked out, you will still have the ability to pay for these or continue existing title applications. So one stage to rework or documents, but you could not start any new title applications until these debts are paid off. So we've selected all three. We don't need to select all three of them. We could potentially just pay off 2 days worth of debts or even 1 day's worth. But for demonstration purposes, we'll pay off all three. And we will pay off with a bank account. We'll notice the payment options are bank account and credit card. There is a simulate error here. This is not available in production. This is for testing purposes only to make sure we are handling things appropriately whenever a payment fails. If you select credit card, we do not support storing credit card information for accounts. So you will need to enter that credit card information each time. It will redirect you to a third-party site, and that site will handle collection of the credit card information as well as any credit card processing fees. There's also the option to use bank account. This bank account option will have a payment channel. There will be a default one for each account that is set to the bank account information that the admin submits. Only admins can change the defaults or save new payment channels for an account. So if you are a basic user and you are attempting to pay through a bank account and one has not been set up yet, you will need to wait until an admin sets up that bank account before you are able to use it. So we will confirm the amount here and then confirm the submission with a signature and submit this payment. This will have a confirmation number, just like the title applications, so you can search for these payments if needed. We also have some reports that condense this information into a more digestible fashion than just searching for the request itself. And we will notice that when we go back to the submit payment, requests, there are still these outstanding balances. That's because the fees are not offset until that night. However, we do display this pending payment amount. This is because this payment has not been confirmed yet. It will process overnight, and we will not actually consider that payment confirmed until it has cleared through with the banks. The debts will be offset that night, but if the payment fails, then we will warn you about that payment failure, and you will be expected to resubmit a payment. So now we will return back and look at a couple of financial reports that we have. To do that, we will go to the Manage Title Applications and then the Reports tab. And we'll see that the reports are split into different sections. So you have your title reports. This report is an application summary, which just summarizes all of the title applications and their types and statuses that have been submitted by your designated agent account. This would be across all logons that have access to your designated agent account and would include title service providers doing work on your behalf. There are also licensed account financial reports and designated agent financial reports. These are split up since they are considered separate accounts in our system. The licensed account will show all payments submitted under your licensed account. If you'll remember, this would be things done to renew your license or manage inventory or anything that is not strictly title related and done through the designated agent panel. Those payments will be viewed here through the submitted payments link. And then there's the designated agent financial reports, which has submitted payments, some acquisition information, and pending payments. We do split out submitted and pending. Submitted payments will be payments that have cleared and the money has been actually received by MBD. So they will not be, I guess they've cleared by the bank, whereas pending payments are payments that have not been confirmed by the bank yet, but have been submitted. So we have record that $45 has been submitted through a bank account by Lisa Carr on December 11th, but that payment has not cleared and likely won't for another 10 days since ACH authorizations take 10 days to fully process. So that is all we have to show for the designated agents in the room. Before I wrap up, I will say that there is a bonus demo for any financial institutions that goes over ELT or electronic lien and title, and a quick synopsis of how that is set up and what it actually does. But before we do that, I will check on any questions in the chat. So Kathy asked, do we still write or stamp surrender on the title when transferring? And it looks like Jonathan has already answered this. Yes, this is required by Administrative Rule 810-5-1-.42. Will you cover boat title transfers on this call? If not, when will that call be available? So there will not be a specific demo of vessel titles and how those look. However, I will say they are essentially the same from a process perspective as vehicle titles. Rather than seeing this transfer vehicle title link, if your designated agent issues vessel titles, there will also be a link to transfer a vessel title. We do collect very similar information that we do for vehicle titles, so owners, information, potential liens, but it follows a very similar process to vehicle title transfers. So we did not feel the need to provide a specific demo just for vessel titling. I have enrolled already, but didn't realize I should use my same username as MV Trips and use my email address. Can this be changed before rollout? So first off, if you are a designated agent, you should be using the username and email address for your Alts account, not your MVTrip account. If you submitted the prior one in error, I would suggest submitting a new one using the correct username and email that's associated to your Alts account, and that should speed up the auto approval queue. Will payment report list the VIN/title numbers that were paid? The payment report will not directly list the VINs and titles that were paid for by that payment. There is a clear separation of payment and debt in our system. And the grouping of the debts into a day lets us keep track of payments separate from the debt, since the debt could potentially change, whereas the payments are more static. For instance, if something were to change on a title application and the fee no longer needs to be charged for whatever reason, that would look strange on a report that had the VINs and the payments. So we make it very intentional that the payments are a separate report from the debt. At what point is a title number generated? When payment is submitted or when title application is created/document submitted? So the title application number is created as soon as you submit that request. So whenever you receive that confirmation after submitting the title application, you do have a title application number. You will then be able to see it on the specific application. So for instance, this replacement title that we submitted, you'll notice we have not submitted documents for this. We have just submitted the title application. We have not even paid for it yet, but there is a title application number. And there is even a title application that you can print out. So all of that is generated after you complete the confirmation by signing for it and hit the submit button. Whenever you see that confirmation number, that means the request is processing and the application will be generated at that point.
And I just want to add, since there was some confusion over the word submit earlier, he means submitting as in the information is good to go and that title application is generated. Submit in this case does not mean anything about payment.
All right. Well, it looks like there are no other questions in the chat. So I will say that if you are not a financial institution, this next demo probably does not apply too much to you. We will be doing these every day from the 27th through the 30th and the 4th to the 7th, twice a day. The morning session is from 10:30 to 12. The afternoon session is from 1:30 to 3. We have also recorded this demo so you can show it to any users that are unable to attend these sessions. That being said, we'll go ahead and move on to the financial institution specific portion of this demo. To do that, we will log out of our account. And we will instead log into our financial institution using the partner logon link and putting in a password. I guess not any password, the password for that account. Next, we will verify the security code. We'll say to trust this device, but this is required for all logons. So if you miss that, if you have a logon, you must set up two-factor authentication. You can trust this device, so it won't be required every time you log into that same IP address, but the first time we do require it. So once we've signed in, it takes us back to our summary page with some familiar looking links and a few unfamiliar looking ones. We'll notice that we don't have the master dealer panel with the inventory panel, since financial institutions do not have the same license. All they need to do is manage the bond. However, the designated agent panel remains the same. Here we will be showing how to update ELT preferences and what that means in terms of title applications. So ELT stands for electronic lien and title, and lien holder designated or financial institution designated agents have the option to opt in to this electronic lien and title preference. This means that rather than having the titles in which you are the primary lien holder printed and mailed to you, the title will just exist electronically. First, I will just show you how to set your preferences. So whenever you log in, this will be available. And enabling this means all titles will be issued electronically by default. There will be an option to print titles, but by default, none will be printed or mailed to you if you are the primary lien holder. And you can opt in or opt out by selecting yes or no, and then submit this request. And you'll see there's a confirmation number for this as well. When you have opted into electronic lien and titles, this means that any title done by a designated agent in Alabama in which they select your designated agent account as the primary lien holder, rather than that title being printed and mailed to your business, it will instead exist electronically. Should you need to print out that title, the process for that would go through the Manage Title Applications. Here we have the Action Center, just like all designated agents, but we would be needing to print out a specific title that has been issued electronically. So we will search for that by VIN. You can search for it by title or application number, but this VIN just has one title issued for it, and it was a vehicle electronic title transfer, and it is the current title. So in this scenario, we've decided we need the physical copy of this title for whatever reason. So we will click on the details and be greeted with options to request a replacement, perform a title correction, manage liens, or request electronic title print of this title. This request will allow us to have this title actually printed and mailed to the address that is on file for this account. And you can expect up to 30 days for the printed certificate to arrive via mail. Once we submit this request, the printing process will begin, and that night it will be sent to the print facility to be printed out and mailed to you. Are there any questions about electronic lien and title or anything else that we've covered today? Looks like we have one from Kimberly. So Kimberly asked, will all financial institutions be required to file electronically? No. So you can have your titles mailed to you physically. That is done through your ELT preferences. So if you say no, we go back here to our update ELT preferences, and then we say no. Whenever you are selected as the primary lien holder, that title will be physically mailed to you, and all titles going forward will be physically mailed. In addition, if you are a lien holder or a financial institution and you do not have a designated agent account, they will not be able to search for you as a lien holder, but they will still be able to input the lien holder information manually, where they would put your business name and address themselves on that title, and it will be mailed to you just like any other title. Tabitha asks, so when a lien is paid in full, we can have it released by state and mailed to the owner. So once a lien is paid off, if you are a designated agent or if you are a lien holder, you can manage the liens on that title. That would be done by searching for the title through the managed title applications using the search, going to the details of that title and then managing the liens on it. From there, you should be able to release the lien and it would then be mailed to the owner. Last call for any questions before we wrap up today. There are some helpful links and documents that have been posted in the chat by our friend Matt, so be sure to check them out. There are some FAQs as well as important links. Just a reminder that this system will be live on December 11th, and InvTrip will be inactive starting December 7th at 7 p.m. So you will not be able to do any work in InvTrip starting on December 7th until December 11th. In addition, please pre-register for your logon so that you have access to the system starting December 11th. Otherwise, you will need to contact MVD to get a logon set up. And we will be continuing to do these demos every day, twice a day, from November 27th through the 30th, as well as December 4th through the 7th. Thank you for attending, everyone. Oh, yep. So there was one more question before we wrap up. Is there a place to see where all your ELT titles are held that the lien holder can review? Yeah. So you can see all of the titles that you have submitted as a designated agent. Also, whenever you search for a title specifically, you can see the title type, which will say if it is an electronic title or not. So here we'll see that this title was issued electronically. However, if you just wish to see all of the titles where you are the primary lien holder that are electronic, that is not available at this moment. All right. Well, that's all we have for you today. Reminder, December 11th is when the switchover happens. You won't be able to do anything in InvTrip starting December 7th. And with that, we will see you all tomorrow at 11 or 10:30, excuse me. Thank you, everyone.